The reason as to why we have problems, especially in even understanding the Bible, is because we don't understand the chronology or the events as they are, as they appear in the Bible. We need to understand the structure of the Bible. We want to look at the Bible from a zoomed out, perspective, so that we are able to very clearly understand how even to study our Bible. Allow me just to give you an overview of this. Hello, our viewers. This is James, Christ Ambassador here on earth. And as always, I am excited because of what we are actually learning together. Now, the reason for my coming to you is so that I introduce to you our new series that we are going to be starting alongside the one that is already ongoing, because we need to remember that we already have an ongoing series. And our ongoing series is on understanding Jesus as the Christ, as it is written in the scriptures. So please don't forget that, and you can be able to interact with a lot of our content that is in our channel, Revealing Christ Kenya. There are so many of those that we have already done. So I request that you interact with them. But today I want to introduce us to the new series. This series will run alongside the one that we are proving that Jesus is indeed the Christ. Now, we want to look at Bible chronology. One question that we would be asking ourselves is, why are we looking at Bible chronology? Now, for us to be able to see the Bible, in perspective, then we need to understand the structure of the Bible. We want to look at the Bible from a zoomed out, perspective, so that we are able to very clearly understand how even to study our Bible. Because most of the times, the reason as to why we have problems, especially in even understanding the Bible, is because we don't understand the chronology or the events as they are, as they appear in the Bible. Now, allow me just to give you an overview of this. Now, the first thing that I will be looking at in this series, remember, the details will be in our episodes. But in this series, I basically want just to introduce you to what we'll be doing. Now, we'll first look at creation. Creation to the flood. Now, when we are looking at creation, we'll basically be looking at the 6 days. The 6 days of creation. And we'll be able to see the events that were happening then. And we'll be able to move wide into that area so that we can be able to see creation. It is still in the same creation that we'll be able to see the fall of man. And our viewer, I want you to follow this very clearly, because when we come to the episodes themselves, clarity will actually be thrown. A lot of light will be thrown here. On this one, I'm only giving an overview, a panoramic view of these events. So we are going to look at the fall of man, and we are also going to look at all the way to the flood. We'll be looking at the reason for the flood. Why did the flood happen? And all of us, I'm sure, we know that after the flood, we only have 8 people who come out of the flood. Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. In total, 8. So that is what will lead us now to the next part of this Bible chronology, which is the flood to the call of Abraham. We'll be able to see a little of the genealogy that brings us to Abraham, so that we'll be able to see Abraham coming from Noah. Now, and this is very important, because the moment we understand clearly where Abraham comes in, then we will actually be in perspective. Remember, I have already said that what we are doing, we are having a panoramic view of the Bible. It's a wide view of the Bible. Tumejitoa ni kama kujitoa nje, and you are actually viewing it from outside. So from the flood to the call of Abraham. And Abraham, remember, is a person of interest here. He is a person of interest. And he's the one now who will lead us to, of course, from the call of Abraham. Now, then we'll move to entry to Egypt. Now, before we go to the call of Abraham to the entry to Egypt, there's something I want to mention here from the flood to the call of Abraham. Now, we cannot talk about Abraham without talking about his son, Isaac. And we cannot talk about Isaac, his son, without talking about Jacob. And of course, from Jacob, we must talk about the 12 tribes of Israel, or the 12 sons of Jacob. So that now when we come to, his entry to Egypt, then we will now be able to see, because at this time, when they are going to Egypt, Abraham is not alive. Okay? Abraham is long gone. So who are actually going to Egypt? It is Jacob and his sons. In fact, even Isaac himself is not in this journey. And one thing that I want us to understand, especially here, is how God calls people. When you read Psalms 105, you'll be able to see that the way Joseph goes to Egypt, and all of us know that he was thrown in a pit somewhere, and the Ishmaelites came and bought him. That from Psalms 105, it is God sending him to Egypt. So you can imagine the kind of sending that God does there. So we'll be able to look at that, and of course we'll be able to see how the rest of the brothers also went into Egypt. So there are a lot of details that we'll be able to cover in that. Then we'll be able to look at how now they settle in Egypt, okay, and all the way up to the Exodus, okay, because we'll be able to see a kind of incubation that God is doing. It's like, when you incubate, those of us who have dealt with chicken farming, we know what we do. We take eggs, we take them somewhere, you brood them, and after a time, of course, you get the chicks. So what basically you are doing, you are actually brooding, yeah? Ndio upate vifaranga wengi. Okay, so there is a lot that we'll be learning from this Egypt, and we'll be able to understand, a few more things apart from what I'm explaining here. So Egypt to the Exodus. Now again, we will look at another area, very important area, the Exodus to Mount Sinai. And we'll be looking at the details of all this, because we know it is in the Exodus that we see all the miracles that were done. Okay? During that Exodus, for them to be released, there are many, of those miracles that had to be done for them to be released. And after that, they go to a place, Mount Sinai. Now, the Mount Sinai event is a very important event to us. Very, very important. And that's why I don't want you to miss any of our episodes that we'll be covering in this area, because you'll be able to understand a lot of insights into the Bible. So Exodus to Mount Sinai. Remember, when they arrive at Mount Sinai, it is only 3 months after they departed from Egypt. They are there in the 3rd month. Then we'll be able to see, of course, the event. We'll cover a lot in the event. Your event will dwell a lot there. Because it has a lot of relevance to, the journey that we are engaging in. So we have then Mount Sinai to Canaan. So we'll deal with the wilderness, what is happening to them in the wilderness, the number of years that they were in the wilderness, what they are doing there, and so forth. So we'll be able to deal with that. Then we look at, and remember here, from Sinai to Canaan, of course, we will also be able to see the judges. Okay, when after Joshua are dead, then there is the advent of the judges, how they take control of the children of Israel and so forth. And then we'll be able now to see the United Kingdom. Now, this is also very important. The United Kingdom against the divided kingdom. We'll be able to see how the kingdom of Israel was divided. The 10 tribes against the 2 tribes. We'll be able to look at that, what happened, and a lot of details will be coming up, especially when we'll be looking at this. Remember, there is a difference between the United Kingdom of Israel and the divided kingdom of Israel. The divided is when we have the 2 tribes, Benjamin and Judah, and we have the other 10 tribes. And we'll be able to see how they go and they are divided, the reason for their division. That will be very key in this journey. Then we look at the divided kingdom to the captivity. Remember, there is a time that the children of Israel are taken to captivity. Wanaenda utumwani. Okay? And when they are in the wilderness, in captivity, we'll be able to see what they are going through there. And it's very important that we understand this. What is happening to them when they are already in captivity. Now, then we look at the exile while they are there out in captivity. Of course, they are already in exile. Exile and captivity is basically one and the same thing. Why do I say so? Because when they are in captivity, hawako nyumbani. They are already out there. Okay, and we'll be able to see, what they are going through through Nebuchadnezzar and all that. Now, we'll also now be looking at the life of Christ, and we'll be able to connect. You will be able to connect very clearly from the creation story, how it connects all the way to this character here, who is a character of interest. This is a character of a lot of interest to us. Remember, I have said in our other episodes that we are looking at in the other series, we are looking at Jesus as the Christ. So we are going to look at the life of Jesus Christ, okay, and now how the church is starting. Because the moment we understand this, then we'll be able to know how the church ought to relate to all these other events here. How they are connected. How do we connect the early church or the church? Because when we look at the early church, we are also looking at the church today. Because the church is the same. But we are looking at how the early church started. And right now, we are actually the propagation of the church, the current church. That is not to say that we are any different from the early church. It is only that the things that we are going through are not reflective of exactly what the early church was actually going through. And so that will be very, very important. We'll be able to see all this, and I welcome you, dear viewer. Please don't miss any of these episodes, because these episodes will help you even in your study. And basically that is what we aim at doing, letting you, be able to study your Bible in perspective, having the Bible chronology, the events as they happened. You'll be able to know what relates to you and what does not relate to you. We'll be able to know everything that actually, even the writer had in mind when they are bringing up this. We'll also be able to see, the canonization. In this, we'll be looking at the canonization. And in the canonization, It is how the Bible, the book, the Bible, the book, was actually brought up together. Because the Bible is actually a collection of books. Okay, so when we have the books, the 5 books of Moses, and we have all the others, the judges, the kings, the prophets, and all that, we'll be able to see what was in the mind of the people who were doing the compiling together of the Bible. What did they want to achieve? Because the books that are in the Bible were not together as we have them today. So once you have that in your mind, then you will be able, even while you are reading the Bible, to be in perspective. Wait for the first episode in a few, because it is coming and it is powerful. You will learn a lot. You will be able to learn a lot. You are blessed.